Hello. Hi, I'm Nicholas Soren Goodich, and this is a extra credit video for working your arts degree. I want to share with you the various jobs that I've had and various ways that I've gained self-employment as an artist over the years. So to start off, when I was 16, I'd already been making art for about 9 years, and having classes, and I even sold work when I was 10. So when I was 16 and I was in Charlottesville, Virginia, I decided I wanted to teach. So I found a community arts center in Charlottesville and set up a couple classes where I offered classes in drawing and painting. That was a lot of fun. And so I had students that summer and the next summer from ages of maybe 10 to 80, a wide range of students. So then later on, and I was in college in Providence, Rhode Island, I needed to find work, and what I did was I found that there was events that were going on at like convention centers, and I went down and spoke to people who managed the convention center and offered to set up a table to do portraits, and I did that a couple times. One was at an auto convention where for 3 days I did portraits for $20 each, and I did hundreds of portraits. It was quite successful. I also, in Charlottesville, set up tables on the mall in downtown in the summer and sold my art, which was also a lot of fun. And I ended up meeting people from different galleries through that experience. So then after being in school for a couple years, I moved to New York City, where I found work as an artist assistant. I worked for a guy named Mark Kostabi, who was a very famous 80s artist who had known Andy Warhol. And he had a company called Kostabi World that did his thing was to have painters paint his paintings for him. So that was an interesting job that I had. Then I spent another couple summers in Charlottesville, where I was looking for work, and so I came up with the idea to offer myself as an English as a second language tutor to international students at University of Virginia. So I went and I put up signs down by the campus, and they ended up with 4 or 5 international students, all adults, who I charged $20 an hour to sit and chat and to discuss whatever subjects they wanted to help them refine their use of English, and that was quite enjoyable. I had like a Korean lawyer. I had a couple ladies who were from Russia, I think, or Ukraine, and just through talking about the town and their experiences at school and current events and some history, I was able to help them learn to communicate in the vernacular, in English, in a very clearer, more comprehensive way. So then I had moved to Chicago in 1997, the end of 97. And I discovered there this industry that I have worked in now for the last 20 years, which is the art handler, art preparator industry. I worked in Chicago for galleries and for arts organizations, for museums, at art fairs, and for specialty art handling companies, doing things like rigging. I learned about moving sculptures. I learned about prints, and I learned about the way that in the art world there is all these different adjunct companies and organizations and how they work together, how galleries, print studios, um, art fairs, museums, how they all are connected with private collectors as well. I then moved to Los Angeles in 1999, which is my hometown, but I moved back to Los Angeles. And in Los Angeles, I worked as a head preparator for a number of galleries. One, Ace Gallery, which is like the largest gallery in America, square footage wise, and Douglas Christmas, who ran, he doesn't anymore, but who ran Ace Gallery. He's the gallerist who introduced and made minimalism, minimalist sculptors, and minimalist artists' work successful in the 60s and 70s, mostly in the 70s. And so I worked there, and I also started working for a number of arts handling, shipping, and storage companies, which, as a industry, has exploded in the last decade. There's a number of companies that I've worked for now: Artex, Gander and White, Cook's Crating. These are companies that have offices all over America, and that ship, store, and handle art for museums, for international companies, for international art fairs, for galleries, local and across the U.S., across the world. So, so there's an industry there that artists can get into now. That there's the hands-on work of packing, unpacking, installing, deinstalling the artwork for private collectors, for arts organizations, for museums, for galleries. And then there's also office. Well, they have office work, so there's great jobs as secretaries, as office management, running the offices. So those are some great jobs to look into. You work closely with collectors, curators. You work closely with museums and with galleries, and that can be very productive in terms of making connections in the industry, in the art world. So since I have moved to Virginia, well, even before I moved here, I got in contact with in the industry through LinkedIn and through just doing searches for those kinds of companies, using Google, and then sending cover letters and emails and resumes out to those companies. And I've been able to get work in Washington, D.C. I was offered a couple weeks of work in Miami, which I couldn't take because of our final school, because of school's finals. But and work here in Richmond, because there's a lot of great galleries and of course the museums here in Richmond. So thank you, and I hope this was informative.